Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. I have a couple more charts I want to show you before I get into the art of practicing. There is a way to practice in which you can get the most benefit and not spend all day doing it. I know a lot of people practice their mistakes. They don't realize their mistakes, and by the time that they get through with a piece, they have learned a mistake. And it's very hard to correct a mistake that you know and think is right. It's much easier to practice it right to begin with. But let me show you these charts first. I have this little chart. It's not as big as the others. I have 3 staffs on it. This is a staff, 5 lines. This is a staff, 5 lines, and this is a staff. I don't have anything on it, but that is a staff. And your middle C is right here. I've done it in pink. And then to go up, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's another C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and that's the high C. And there are 2 ledger lines on it. There's a line here that goes through the note and a line underneath the note. That is your high C. This is a mid-range C, and this is the low C. You can get another couple of Cs above that, but you know, most woodwinds can't play higher than this. It's about the limit. Now, when you go on the bass clef, and what I've done is I've tinted all of these notes in green, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. So that's another C right there. B, A, G, F, E, and then it goes down below the staff line. You can write notes below the staff line, and you can write notes above the staff line. But if you do, you have to have a ledger line through them. It's not a big problem. People do it all the time. So just to have you see the range of the notes, this is high C, the highest that most of the woodwinds can get. This is the low C, that's the lowest that most woodwinds can get. This is a 2-octave range. Now in octaves you have 8 notes, but the 8th note is just a repeat of the first note. So it just goes from one to the other, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and that starts, and that is a repeat of this C here. And if you play them on an instrument, you'll think that these notes sound alike, except one is higher than the other, and that's exactly what it is, because the vibrations are going twice as fast for the higher than the lower, but it's basically the same note. Now, on the bass clef, you have that range all the way down, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now, if I wanted to, I could play G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Or I could start with the A. The A is right here. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it switches off to an A again, because that's the way we hear it. I just wanted you to see how this works out, because it's just the way that the notes flow. And there's a 2-step difference, as I said before, between the notes of the treble and the bass clef. Now, what I did here is I actually took notebook paper, and I used the lines, 5 lines at a time, to get a staff. Now this is quite large, but I thought it might be interesting to see it. You know, you have your F way down here, F, G, A, starting with the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right here. This starts another A. A, B, C, and this is the low C, this is the middle C, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then back to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then back to the A again. So at any rate, you just go from an A to another A to another A. It gets to G, and then it goes right back to A. Now on the sharps and the flats, I may as well show you this as well. I'm going to photocopy this and get it set up in a regular graph form, but I was in a hurry to get it done. Here's a keyboard. What are your sharps and your flats? All right, this is a C sharp. It's 1/2 step up. And then anything that's 1/2 step down is a flat. So this here would be what's called an enharmonic note. You can have the same note be a sharp or the same note be a flat. So here we go. C sharp is right here, 1/2 step from that C. But this is also a D flat, 1/2 step down. So you have the D, 1/2 step down as a D flat. You have the C, 1/2 step up as a C sharp. You know, and this runs up all in terms of the keyboard. An E sharp would be the same thing as an F, because an F is just a 1/2 step up. When you get a 1/2 step up, even without the black and white key, the black keys, it's still that 1/2 step that makes it a sharp. Or an E flat is this note right here, 1/2 step down. So any of the notes that you have can have an F sharp, or can have a sharp, or can have a flat, and these are what's called enharmonic notes. So E, E flat, D, D flat, C. C flat is the same as a B. Why? Because it's just a 1/2 step down. There's no black note there, so the 1/2 step down ends on a B. B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F flat would be the E. It's just a 1/2 step, even without the black note. Now, if you're going in the other direction, you're dealing with sharps. C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. E sharp's going to be the same as an F because it's 1/2 step up. And then G and G sharp, A and A sharp, B and C, that's a 1/2 step up. So you can go up and down the scale, all of the notes, and you can raise them by a 1/2 step no matter where they land, or you can flatten them by a 1/2 step no matter where they land. And you're going to get your sharps and you're going to get your flats. Now, normally, if I'm teaching a person, I don't teach them the flats and the sharps right away. When we get all of the notes, like, for example, when I get so they can play the B, A, G, F, E, D, and then the C, and then the C, then I'm going to start showing them some interesting things, like the F. That's the F sharp. Now, if you have an instrument that has a little B on the back of the instrument, I realize you can't see it. It's not indented. It's just a little tiny B made of the same coloring and the same plastic. That stands for Baroque. That means you have a Baroque instrument. And so when you want to play an F, instead of drawing, you add an extra finger. You skip this note and you add an extra finger, and that gives you a Baroque fingering for an F. You can see it's a little bit deeper in tone, a little bit lower in tone than the F without that fingering. There are some instruments that are called German instruments where you don't have that, where you just play it one finger at a time. The fingerings are very, very similar. But if you have a Baroque, you add that little finger, that fourth finger, and that gives you a little bit lower pitch on that F, which is a little bit more accurate. I think most people actually do play Baroque instruments. I know I was teaching in a school system, and they said, well, we're going to order new recorders. What do you want? And I said, well, the C melody, of course, is what we would play, but do you want Baroque, or do you want English, or do you want German? And at the time, I wasn't sure. There wasn't that much difference between them, but then I asked some questions. What do most people play? Most people play a Baroque because it's a little bit more accurate in pitch. And so they do that. It's not hard to play. You just have to learn there's a little bit of difference. Like if I play a B, if I want to be flat, just put this finger down. I skip the note right here and put the other one down. And sometimes if I want it a little deeper pitch, I may use the finger of my right hand. You can see the difference in the pitch, can't you? It makes it a little bit deeper tone. And so you can play a lot of sharps and a lot of flats in a recorder. You just have to be able to sometimes fudge the fingerings a little. Normally, you can do something called half-holing. When you half-hole, you just pull your finger away. Now, this is a G. I want a G sharp. I pull that third finger, which is a G, and I pull it away a little bit. That gives me my G sharp. Or I can play the A, and I can put these two fingers down, which is probably a better fingering anyway, and I can get my G sharp that way. Or I can play the G, and I can pull the finger out a little and get a G sharp that way. Which is better? Which is the better fingering? Well, probably the most accurate fingering would be to skip this note and use this fingering for a G sharp. The problem with doing it by pulling your finger out, which is half-holing, it does work. But the problem is each person might pull their finger out a little different way, so the pitch might not be exactly accurate. But it is a way, there's various things that you can do. You can have alternate fingerings where you play a note and you finger it differently than usual, but you get the note that you want. With me, if I were playing something and it was a fast piece, I probably would just pull this finger out, if it's a really fast piece. If not, I would use this kind of fingering for it because it would be a little bit more accurate. You learn what your instrument can do, and in the case of recorders, you can do a lot. It plays a lot. So let me continue here. I still have a couple of charts here that I want to show you. Let's see, this one here I think will probably be the last one I show you. This is an interesting chart. I should do it over, I guess. But here are the high notes. Here is your high C. Here's your C above high C. So it's harder to play. Flutes can't get that high. Pianos can do that. And so he's going to bring that in a little closer so we can see it. You need to know the ranges of the instruments that you're playing. And when you first start out playing, you could be playing a song flute, a tonette, a flutophone, any of those instruments. And they do play okay. They have a little bit of limitations. In fact, the recorder has a little limitations, but not a lot of limitations, because you can play a lot of music on a recorder. I write and do classical music on a recorder, and it sounds fine. You just have to know how to tweak it in a certain way. So when we get this in here, okay, so here we have, this is a low C right here. The middle C is right here. And this is the C above it. And this is the high C above it. Flutes can do that. But then you have the C above high C, which I think the flutes can do, but this they can't do, and that's just the piano that can do that. And they don't write music for that high, because the reason for that is that it can't be read. If you get your high C above high C, you've already got 5 ledger lines. It's as if you drew the lines of the staff right across, but you shortened it. So it's only this note. And so therefore you already have 5 ledger lines. If you were to play an octave above that, you'd have 4 or 5 more ledger lines, and this note would be sticking up here somewhere, and you'd be looking at it saying, how many lines, what is it, you know? And it's hard to do that, so they don't do that. They put an 8 VA, and what they're saying is whatever the notes are here, play them an octave higher. And it's hard to do it, but it's easier to read if you just go by the 8 VA. So we have various instruments that are 1 octave instruments and maybe 1 or 2 notes above that. So the tonettes, flutophones, and song flutes can play from this middle C to this, I'm going to call it like a intermediate C. That's about the range. That's a 1 octave range. Sometimes you can squeeze out maybe a note or 2 beyond that, but it wouldn't be common to do that. Then, if you go into the melodicas, the ocarinas, penny whistles, sassotos, and recorders, they can get another octave, so they can get the 2 octave range here and here. And so that's quite a bit of the staff right there that they can play. They can play the 2 octaves. And then if the flutes, the regular flute, can play that octave above that. And that's as far as they can go. And then the piano goes for another octave above that. The piano can be so high that you can hardly hear it. And so it can also be so low that you can hardly hear it. And so here's your C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. That's another C. B, A, G, F, E, D, and here's another C. And you see there are 3 ledger lines there. It can go way down. So there's an awful lot of music that can be played, and you need to know what register your instrument is in. I was playing with an oboe player. Somebody said, oh, she's a really great oboe player. So I was looking forward to meeting her, and we were talking. I says, what key is your instrument in? She had no idea what I was talking about. Instruments come in keys. This little guy here is in the key of C. It is a C melody recorder. I didn't bring some of the others because I had too much to carry. But here it is. It's also called a descant. It's in the key of C. The key of C has no sharps and no flats. You just play it up and down, just straight notes. And that's the way it is. So I would go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. No sharps and no flats. And then for the upper octave, the same thing. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But if they said that, oh, it's in the key of G, then I would know there was an F sharp here and an F sharp here. So the different keys show us what sharps and what flats the instrument will play on its own. I mean, it's just set so it's built like that. And you get the flats and sharps, but the C is the easiest to play because you're not transposing music. You're not making your music different, so it'll match up with what somebody else's music is. So at any rate, recorders can do an awful lot of music, and they can do classical music. They can't do everything, but they can do a lot more than you might expect. So at any rate, we're going to get to practicing. I might just postpone that and do that the next time around. When you're practicing, I'll give you a couple of hints, though. If you are a new student and you're just learning how to play, don't try to play very long. There's nothing magical about playing a half an hour a day. If you're a new student and you're just learning how to play, your lips are going to be tired. Now, they're not going to be painful, but they're going to feel weak. And you're not going to be able to hold on to an embouchure. An embouchure is what you do with your muscles around the mouthpiece. And they're not going to be able to, if you're a new player, hold that embouchure very long. But you're going to think maybe they should, and you're going to keep trying and trying to get it. When your lips are weak and tired, don't force anything. Just stop and let them rest, because you're not going to be able to be a better player. You're not going to be able to force your lips to hold an embouchure when it can't do it because it's too weak to do it. So I think that new students who are just learning how to play until you feel tired. When you start, your lips start to feel tired, stop. It may be only 2 or 3 minutes. It may be 5 minutes. And rest your lips until they feel strong enough to start playing again. That can be a very short time, or it can be a longer time, but you don't have to worry about it. It is what it is. As you get stronger, you'll be able to play more and more and more and spend more and more time, and you'll feel good. Your lips won't act really strange. Your lips won't act so that they're weak and so forth. So therefore, you can do that, and you have to get used to that. And even though it's a pain in the you-know-where, it's good to do holding tones where you go up and down a scale, and you hold a note, each note, as long as you can hold it. They're called holding tones. It is boring to do, but it increases your lung power. It gives you a better tone. You're going to sound better. You're going to strengthen your lungs so you can hold your notes longer, and it's generally a very good thing to do. Just try it with one note, then try going up a scale and do it with each note of the scale just as long as you can. And don't be concerned about the number of hours that you spend practicing. You don't have to practice hours and hours and hours. If you're a professional, and you probably will because it's the way it is, and you get more difficult music and you practice more. I'm more concerned about you learning how to tongue and how to play the music, and not to get too tired while you're doing it, because it does exact a toll in your body. And if you're tired, just stop. You know, if it's 5 minutes, that's okay. If you're a beginning player, you may not be able to make 5 minutes. That's okay. There's nothing wrong. Just play what you can and just rest up. And then you might want to try it a few times a day. If you're a person who's brand new, you can only play like for 3 minutes at a time. Try 3 minutes at a time, various times of day. But don't try to squish it all in at one time and spend a half an hour when your poor lips are saying goodbye. You know, you can't do that. It's not good for them. Well, I'm going to close it here. We'll go into all kinds of things about practicing next time. So please join me then.